just add them.
Okay.
Because I think Will might have a commitment, so I guess I need to be here for quorum. Because I was going to go do the same thing.
Well, Jay's not here either.
Do what?
Well, and somebody might pop
Oh,
up
okay.
on the screen
Yeah,
possibly.
well,
Okay,
thing
good
is,
deal.
I'm not quite ready yet. So.
Yeah.
You're the New Jersey guy tonight.
I know.
Mr. Demolition. I'm going to change your name.
You've gone to the dark side.
To order. It's just after 6. Avery, would you like to give the preliminary meeting information?
Yes, thank you. And good evening and welcome to the June 20th, 2024 Historic Resources Commission meeting. My name is Avery Kerner and with me is Lam Braddock-Zollner, the Historic Resources Administrator. Together we will work alongside the chair to facilitate the meeting proceedings tonight. Before we begin, I have just a few reminders to share. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. For those who are attending the meeting virtually, please remember to mute yourself when you are not actively speaking to help minimize distractions. When the chair calls for public comment on an item, anyone attending in person may approach the podium to speak. If you are attending the meeting virtually and would like to provide public comment on an item, please use the raise your hand feature to be called upon. We also ask that everyone state their name before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to the chair.
Thank you, Avery. Now we'll take a roll call. Commissioner Johnson,
Commissioner Johnson here.
Commissioner Meyer,
Mr. Meyer here.
Commissioner Klein,
Commissioner Klein here?
and Commissioner Coleman is here. Commissioners Holly and Haynes are absent. We'll get right into it. So communications. Have we received any communications from other commissions, State Historic Preservation Officer, or the general public?
It was not included in your packet, but staff did receive an email from the State Historic Preservation Office that the City of Lawrence was awarded a grant to do a survey of the University Place neighborhood, not the National Register nomination, but they awarded us the full amount that we requested and asked that we use the additional resources to do public education and public input prior to submitting a request for a National Register nomination. So that will be coming in the future.
Excellent, thank you. Is there any disclosures of ex parte communications from commissioners today? No? Abstentions for specific agenda items? No? All right, how about committee reports? Do we have any?
ARC meet.
Was that before I think that was before the last one, wasn't it?
The ARC did meet before the last Historic Resources Commission meeting, but one of the projects that was discussed was not discussed at the ARC meeting, wasn't covered at last month's HRC meeting, but it will be covered tonight for 1013 Connecticut Street. And so, if appropriate, the ARC can discuss their comments on that item later when that item's covered.
And could you let us know the progress, or I don't know if you know about the progress of the committee meetings for the Dowdell and Rice markers?
They have not been set yet.
Okay. Do you happen to have any clue about when they might happen?
I do not know the date of that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. And we have several items that were reviewed by staff. And I would entertain a motion to approve these. I suppose we can do I vote today, can't we? Because we're in person. Wonderful.
I'm sorry, are we at the design review?
We're at the consent agenda. Would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make that motion since I like to do that. I move that we approve the attached design review applications according to the standards information listed in the staff report for each application. That was Commissioner Klein.
Okay, is there a second?
I second Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now it's time for public comment. If there's any public comment on items that are not on the agenda, now would be the time to give that comment. I see no one in the chamber to give public comment. Anyone online?
You do not see any public commenters online.
Okay, so we'll move into public hearing items. The first one is HRC 24-1015.
Good evening, Commissioners. Historic Resources Administrator for the city. This is a demolition and new construction request for the property located at 1136 New Jersey Street. The property is located in the context area of the Henry Waters House, located at 1124 New Jersey Street. This is showing the location. You'll see this is the subject property outlined in this orange color, and then the Waters House is in the center of the screen. This is the subject property at 1136. The county dates the construction for the structure to 1880. Staff did do a walkthrough of the structure. That is a possible construction date. It may be a little bit later than that, but it may be that the very interior of the structure is the 1880 date, and there are several additions that have been added to the structure. It is clad with artificial siding, and we'll just quickly walk around the structure. This is showing that south elevation of the structure and the rear of the structure, and you can see some of the additions here. This is walking around that corner. This is looking at the rear yard. On the right, you'll see a shed that is also being proposed to be demolished. The county has a circa 1950s date for the shed, and then there's the carport that does not have an estimated construction date, but is not historic. This is a close-up of the shed to be removed. This is the proposed site plan. The property owner to the north owns this property. The existing property is a lot and a half, and so they're proposing with the new structure to locate the structure on the southern lot and have that half lot be a buffer between their property and the new structure. So you're seeing the structure will move to the south a little bit, but it'll still have an 11-foot setback from the southern property line, 10 feet from that lot line, so it'll be quite a distance from the property line, and then 20 feet front and rear yard. This is the proposed replacement structure that the applicant has submitted. The side elevation, this is showing that front porch, and then the fenestration pattern along the side, which is typical for a structure of this type. Showing the opposite side. And then the rear. There's analysis in your staff report. This was very sad for staff to go through this property. The foundation has almost complete failure. All of the interior, even though it was a very simple vernacular structure, most of the molding, all of the plaster and lath, even one of the primary walls has been removed, and so there's not a lot left on the interior of the structure. Because of the artificial siding, it's unknown what condition the exterior sheathing is in, but the foundation would have to be replaced. If the structure were to be rehabilitated, it would be basically a new structure. There was some work done, if you noticed in the staff report, where the windows were replaced. When they were replaced, they didn't use the appropriate size windows, and they just filled in around the replacement windows, and there is water infiltration into the wall cavities, so it's unknown what condition, whether or not there's mold or what kind of water damage exists in the wall cavities. So for all of these reasons, and because the proposed new construction meets the design criteria in Chapter 22, staff is recommending that you find that the proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22 and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we happen to know the last time anyone lived there,
Excuse me.
roughly?
I think it was recently. I think there was someone in the house recently.
So it's been a rental or owned
It-
by the property owner?
It has been a rental, yes.
You know, again, I despise demolitions, and I wish there was something we could do to prevent them from getting to this point where they have to be demolished.
I think we all agree. I think it was on the market not too long ago, and I walked through it. Yeah. Okay, is the applicant present?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Patrick Watkins. The applicant is Emily and T.K. Peterson. They could not be here tonight. They are the proprietors of Merchant's Pub and Plate downtown at 8th and Mass. And in terms of neighborhood growth, neighborhood change, I can think of a few things less or more desirable than having local downtown business people make more investment in neighborhoods that are close to downtown. So I'm pleased to report that, this is a great thing for local growth, local investment. Emily and TK have only recently come to own the property just a few months ago, and it was a private transaction between their neighbor, the neighboring landlord, and it has had an occupant. It had a guy that had lived there for many, many years in sort of substandard condition. It was a matter of time before he would be moving out, and some serious repairs would be needed. But I've been in it, and I've found the same thing about the foundation of this building. It's just beyond repair. There's a lot going on underneath, and it's unsafe. But they've picked out what I think is a tastefully sized replacement new home. And I think they're fantastic stewards for this sort of property in East Lawrence. And I think they have a couple of ideas about family or uses of this property that aren't really traditional landlord-tenant, at least at this time. But they're taking it one step at a time. They're just the new owners of it right now. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond. I know a little bit about their circumstances. But I think they share your perspective. Demolition's a last resort.
I happen to know TK a little bit. Know his father better. So you're saying they're not planning on living in it themselves, or they don't know yet?
They live next door, and
Oh, they live next door?
Yeah, they live, and they've renovated that house. I think they've got it how they like it.
Oh, I see, okay.
And so they saw the condition of the neighboring property, and saw an opportunity to make
Got
things
it.
better.
Okay.
Well, and, I wanted to ask, is the carport going away too?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? Thank you. Well, I do hate to see the demolition by neglect kind of thing happening until we get something in place that can counteract that in some way. I don't have a
Well, I wish we would have more discussions about it, not maybe during, these kinds of meetings.
during our
but-
planning session.
Yeah, during our, I just think it's a topic we need to quit dismissing all the time and just saying, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I think there are solutions out there, we need to talk about them.
Okay, well, I believe that the submission meets all of the criteria we have required, and the proposed design for the replacement structure meets the standards of review.
Are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, I move that we find that the proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project.
I will second that motion.
And this is Commissioner Johnson. I'd just like to say that I really did appreciate the thorough report about the condition of the building and all the photos and everything that really should be a model for others when they want to propose demolition.
I agree.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the second item, HRC 24-1007.
Yes, that is my item. Give me just 1 second to share. Okay. Okay. Thank you and good evening, Commissioners. Again, this is item HRC-24-1007. And the application submitted by the applicant was a request to demolish the primary structure at 1013 Connecticut Street and to construct a new single-family structure with a detached garage. The proposed project is located in the context area of 3 locally designated landmarks on the Lawrence Register of Historic Places, which requires Chapter 22 review for a certificate of approval. The Historic Resources Commission reviewed the proposed project at the April 18th HRC meeting and approved the certificate of approval for the request to demolish the primary structure, but the plans for the new construction were referred to the ARC for design improvement. The applicant met with the Architectural Review Committee on May 2nd, 2024, and discussed different design alterations that could help the proposed project better meet the applicable design criteria. The design elements that were discussed at the meeting included the structure's roof pitch, the fenestration on the front east elevation, inclusion of a front porch on the east elevation, elevating the structure to be on a platform, and the number and type of siding materials proposed. The applicant submitted revised plans in response to the Architectural Review Committee's discussion, and those plans have been included in the packet for this evening. There was one update to the packet today, which was to include an updated version of the elevation drawings, which no longer include or show the metal wall panels as a proposed siding material. The use of metal wall panels as a siding material was not supported by staff, and the applicant had conveyed that they had intended to remove that as a proposed material after the ARC meeting discussion. That material was accidentally left on the plans, and so the applicant submitted the revised elevations that were added to the packet today to remove that material from the project. Instead, the plans propose using hardy plank vertical siding in place of the metal wall panels. And then quickly, I'll just walk through some photos of the property and the original elevations as a quick refresher of what the Historic Resources Commission reviewed back in April. This map shows the property at 1013 Connecticut Street here in the center of the screen and its location within those different context areas. This is the front east elevation of the original structure that the commission issued a certificate of approval for demolition of. And then just quickly walking around some of those elevations. This is the rear west elevation. Another view of that. And then the front southeast corner. And then just some photos of the interior of that structure. Again, that was approved already for demolition. This was the front east elevation originally proposed. Here you can see several different siding materials proposed, and then the front southeast projection, roof projection, had a shed roof form, which is one of the more obvious changes that you'll see on the revised plans that were submitted. This was the north elevation, and the rear west elevation, and then the south elevation. So this is the front east elevation that was submitted with the revisions in response to the ARC discussion. The stairwell projection on the front southeast corner of the structure, again, has changed from having a shed roof form to having a gable roof. There is a covered front porch that would include a metal roof, and then the column posts for that covered porch would be painted white. And then and then the plans propose hardy plank vertical siding on the left half of the front east elevation instead of the metal wall panels that were proposed. This is the south elevation. Again, there's not a whole lot of changes to this elevation that were submitted. Here you can see a slight change in the form of the structure with that change to the roof form of that projection for the stairwell. This is the rear west elevation. And then the north elevation. And then you can see from this elevation that front east covered porch, and then that vertical hardy plank siding being carried over from the front left half of that east elevation. And then these are the elevations of the proposed detached garage accessory structure. There really weren't many changes to these elevations other than just the siding material proposed. The original plans indicated that up in the peak of the gable, the the metal wall panels would have been used, but again, those have been removed from the project. And again, the other two, the north and east elevations of that accessory structure. So the revisions made by the applicant address most but not all of staff's concern with the project. The plan still proposed constructing the structure at grade instead of on a raised platform foundation. The design criteria state that new construction should reflect similar platform foundation elevations from the ground that are typical and architecturally compatible with structures in the context area. There are structures in the context area that are constructed at grade, but most have raised foundations, so staff is of the opinion that the proposed structure should be raised to reflect the platform foundation elevations that are found within that context area. There have been more new construction projects coming before the commission that propose at-grade construction. The design criteria do include guiding language that says new construction shall be elevated from land grade in areas where the average of structures have pedestal platforms. Because these types of requests are becoming more frequent, the commission may want to have a deeper discussion on how to proceed with reviewing projects that propose at-grade construction in context areas where there's a mix in foundation elevations. Because the design criteria say that new construction shall be elevated from land grade in areas where the average of the structures have pedestal platforms, staff recommends that the commission find that the proposed project does not meet the standards for review in Chapter 22, Section 22-507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22-508, and deny the certificate of approval for the proposed project. And with that, I would be happy to help answer any questions.
So just to clarify again, so you're saying that all of the metal panels on the walls have been removed?
Yes, metal
And-
wall panels as a siding material
Okay.
have been removed.
And then what is being used for the wall panels,
It was
sidewall panels?
in place of the metal wall panels, the plans propose the hardy plank vertical board siding.
It's called what?
Hardy plank vertical siding is that the applicant may be able to provide a little bit more.
I think it's just usual siding, it's just vertical, normal siding.
But it's synthetic, or is it wood, or what is it? Again, I don't know the material.
It's wood, but it's like, it's a manufactured wood. Think of plywood. It's wood, but it's not solid wood.
So will it be painted? How is the wood treated?
Yeah, that's usually painted.
Is that what's going to happen in this case?
Let's hear from the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Is the applicant online?
She's,
Thought I saw.
Hi there.
Hello.
This is Shenouda, and I'm standing in for Peter. He had to travel back to his homeland today. So, yes, to answer your question, it's the standard pre-treated siding, and it will be painted.
Thank you.
Dina, is this the same type of siding you guys have on the house on 19th Street?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember what that address is, but at the last
It's at the corner.
meeting, I had mentioned.
It's 1904 Tennessee.
Okay, that 1904 Tennessee is a project they did with a similar design, so if you wanted to get on Google and see what it looks like, that siding looks like, you can, if you're having a hard time capturing that.
I have, this is Commissioner Johnson. I have a question, and I'm just going to ask, I don't know how to make it technical. Why so few windows?
On this new design.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was if you look at 1904 Tennessee, you'll see how few windows there are in the design of it. This one at 1013 will actually have a bigger window in place where the, I guess not a bigger window, but where the garage door is at 1904, this one is going to be a bedroom, so there will be a window there. And this was the design from the architect. I mean, I guess I don't understand what you're saying is so few windows.
Well, it's just in a historic neighborhood, there's just usually a lot more windows to allow light and air into a house, and this is looking rather like that it's constructed for a climate, an Arctic climate, where you don't have a lot of windows. And so I was just trying to figure out how it fit in with the neighborhood. So that's just, hence my question.
Well, I think there are a lot of similarities between this design and the design at 1904 Tennessee. Like if you look at the plans for this project, like the back is very similar, the sides are very similar. I guess I look at amount of windows and the placement depends on the interior design of the house. I mean, sometimes there's windows that are unwieldy to have windows in different places, but.
Correct. And, going back to the 1904 Tennessee house, it's, it may look like there's not very many windows, but it brings in quite a bit of sunlight, compared to what it may seem like outside, but there is quite a bit of sunlight.
Would you also clarify, are you still planning a metal roof?
On top, and I apologize, I don't have these in front of me. But I know on top of the porch, it was going to be a metal roof, and that was the only metal, rather than metal siding. And I don't believe that the roof was going to be metal siding.
Lynn, that was your understanding, was just the porch roof was metal?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, summer temperatures, triple-digit temperatures are foremost in my mind. We're going to be experiencing these for the next several decades, and I just can't imagine a metal roof on top of the house. It would just be baking it, I would imagine.
Well, there's a lot.
I don't think the material, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, I'm not an architect, but I'm just trying to, imagine.
Yeah, I think we are to judge this submission upon its merits in its compatibility with the neighborhood that's in the context area of 3 listed properties. And when it was presented to HRC, we felt like it met the height, the massing, the scale, the directional expression, the setbacks, the roof shapes, sense of entry. It met all those. We felt like the platform foundation was an issue. It's closer to the ground than the other buildings in the context area, and we wanted it to be raised on a platform to be compatible with the neighborhood. And then the other item was the amount of materials in the exterior wall treatment. So there was lap siding, there was metal panels, and I think at the time there was something else. And so we encouraged them to consolidate the number of materials, which it seems like they have, and to make material changes as other structures in the area would do, which would be at a corner, like turning a corner, and not in the center of a wall span. So I think that was a change they made. Oh, and then there was a roof form inconsistency. The roof shape of the first submission on the small gable that you see circled in red, that was a shed roof going kind of the opposite direction as the main roof gable. And so they changed that to be more of a shape that you would see in the other structures in the neighborhood. So we felt like those changes were good and consistent. Felt like there was also a porch roof discussion about making, where the other example house had a small porch roof just over the door. And what you see in the neighborhood is a longer porch across the front of the building, or half of the front of the building. So I thought that was a change that was made. I think that was it. So in this submission today, I see everything that we discussed, except for the platform is not evident. It's, it looks like it might be raised a bit off of the surrounding grade, but it doesn't give the impression of a foundation. It gives the impression of a more modern house sitting, slab on grade. So that would be the only thing that we talked about in the ARC that we don't see on this submission.
Okay, and then at the ARC meeting, Joy had mentioned or said, or we talked about that platform, and in the house on 1904, it has one little step, and Joy had said, if we can do a bigger step, that would solve the problem. So she said, her words were, make it a bigger step, and we said that we could do that. So we were under the impression that that was okay to do.
Yeah, that was me.
And that would solve that problem.
That was me, I'm Joy. So,
Okay.
yeah, so what I was saying is the house needs to look like it's on a platform, but if you're worried about too many steps at the front door, then you can make that step at the front of the porch where the sidewalk raises up to it, but the rest of it would give the illusion of a platform.
Well, I just want to say I'm okay with it, with the plans that they, revised plans without the metal panels. I'm fine with it the way it is, so everybody else can have a
This
different.
idea of the platform does come up a lot, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree that it really, it is so, in my opinion, it is so out of character with the area that the least they can do is put it on a platform. And so, I think that does need to happen.
I don't recall,
Well, and then oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead,
Sorry.
please, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's, we're trying to make it an affordable home, and then having to add more concrete, it's just not cost effective to do that. And so that's why, we had discussed and come to an agreement about having a bigger or higher step to alleviate that problem and to avoid extra costs.
Yeah, we did look around in the context area at the other structures, and this is a neighborhood that the front porch is closer to the surrounding ground in height. It's not every house is elevated a lot. So, but I don't see a distance or a dimension or anything on the plan, so it looks like it did before.
Yeah, and I thought that Peter had the architect update that, but
Oh, Dina, you muted.
excuse me. No, sorry, I had to cough. I didn't want to cough in your ear. So we can definitely provide that. I just thought that after the ARC meeting that was all agreed upon. So if we need to provide additional information, we're fine with doing that.
Commissioners, one of the options available to you that you have now that we haven't had in the past is under the new Chapter 22, you can approve projects with conditions. It doesn't have to be an approval or a denial. It can be an approval with a condition. So if you wanted to approve the project with that one step and kind of give staff some indication of how high you want that step to be, that's something we can work with the applicant on, and that way they don't have to resubmit or come back to the HRC. It can be done at a staff level when they submit for their building permit.
Okay, well, maybe I'm the only one.
Well, in my brief memory, I'm not remembering any projects dealing with platforms. I mean, or is a platform like a concrete slab? Is that basically what it is? Versus having a crawl space or a basement of some kind?
Yeah, it's a slab on grade term.
Okay, so I just don't recall that being a topic for, other new projects that have come before this commission in the last couple of years, 2-3 years. Could be just me, I don't know. And it sounds like maybe, Dina, it sounds like you maybe understood Joy to mean that you could solve, instead of a platform, you could have a larger step on the porch or leading up to the porch that could solve the problem. Is that kind of what's going on here? Is a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of what was intended?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Step just at
yeah.
the front door doesn't meet the guideline of giving the impression of a foundation. So, but I could be splitting hairs.
Just trying to clarify what's going, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I were to make a motion, I would make the motion that was recommended by staff.
To deny it?
Yeah. Or alternatively, continue it till next month and get the new plans.
Well, I have a question, because when I'm looking at the plans, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, but does the porch extend across the front of the left side of the house? The platform porch, the concrete porch that you would put your feet on, and the roof? Because in the elevation, it looks like it does, but the plan, it looks like it does not, and I'm confused.
And I need to look at it. It's not in front of me. But I am sure that it was covering, it wasn't just the front porch. It was covering the front area.
Okay, well, maybe it's
And
an issue then, and
Oh, go ahead.
we could say that as a condition, if that, because it looks like the elevation does not agree with the plan. So if we can say, I would support a motion to approve it with the caveat or the condition that the metal roof and on the porch and the porch floor extend across the house as it does in the elevation, and not just be at the front door like it is shown on the plan.
You want it going all the way across the front elevation?
Just across that left portion with the vertical siding?
Commissioner,
Oh, I thought it was.
my understanding and how I view the elevations, it does look like both the paved porch and then the roof extend the entirety of that.
Yes, in that drawing it does.
But the other one, where it's the plot plan, it's reversed. Sheet A440, page, I don't know, page 67.
And 64.
I'm looking at 64. Of course, I can't read drawings, so I'll shut up.
The upper level plan just shows a little box.
I mean, the plans don't make sense from one to the other.
I don't think they updated the plan to match the elevation. I think that's what happened.
And that's why continuing it till next time is perhaps the thing to do.
Well, and if that's the only thing that's holding it back, I mean, we have no problem with providing additional information and plans, if that's a condition, and, approving everything else, but having that as a condition rather than prolonging this another month.
Well, it's just, and this is Commissioner Johnson, I can't tell what this is without the right plans in front of me. I apologize that I don't have a good enough imagination to be able to do that.
Well, see on the left there, upper level plan. If you zoom in to that upper level plan, there's a 5-foot dimension, and then there's this double line.
Right here.
Yeah, that. That to me says it's a small roof.
Yeah.
But the elevation says it's a roof that extends to the north corner of the property,
Yeah.
which is, I think, what you mean to do.
It looks like the upper level plan may not have been revised to reflect those edits. The ground floor plan does show those posts with that porch extending the entire left half of the front east elevation. And then again, the locations of the.
Right, I see that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why would you put those posts there if you?
That's correct.
Okay.
If you didn't have what?
Correct.
If you didn't have a roof, why would you have the posts?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Great. Does that clear it up, Bonnie?
There's still the issue of the platform for me, so, I mean, I've indicated that I would say continue it, or I'm going to say no. So we can, however people want to, I mean, I will agree with the staff's recommendation is what I would do, but I mean, we can just vote however people would like to vote.
We can.
And I'm leaning with Jody about the platform not being as crucial an issue for me, but again, I'm more of a layperson, on this committee, on this commission, so.
Well, I'll make a motion and we'll just see what happens. I will move that the proposed project with the updated designs does meet the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22507 of the design criteria, and Chapter 22, Section 22508, and that we issue a certificate of approval for the proposed project. So is there a second?
Yes, I will second that.
All right.
And we'll take a roll call vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your patience with us, and good luck with your project.
All right. Thank you so much.
Moving on to number 3, item HRC 241014.
Well, and before we leave what we just talked about, it really, applicants have to pay attention to what they submit, because that's the only information we have. And if you get too loosey-goosey and let's make a deal without seeing the actual plans, you don't know what you're going to get. And it can be, I mean, we could still have a misunderstanding after tonight because the plans don't reflect what we think. So it just, I appeal to all applicants out there, please pay more attention to what you give us because that just increases the length of time, continuances, misunderstandings, etc. And now I'm off my soapbox.
Thank you.
This is 1347 Tennessee Street. It's new construction on a vacant lot. The property is located in the MU-UC district of the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District and is subject to the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. Those guidelines have very specific design criteria for construction in the MU district, and so those are included in your staff report. This is the project location, this vacant lot here circled in blue. This is the site plan showing the location of the proposed structure. There was comment in the staff report about the setbacks and how it does not meet all the setbacks associated with the MU district in the design guidelines. This also shows, I just wanted to point out here because it's a little bit easier to see on the site plan than it is when we get to the elevation drawings. The actual entrance to the ground level is here on the side of the building and not facing Tennessee Street. This is the primary elevation of the structure. And if you noticed in your application materials, it would be commercial on the ground floor, which is part of the mixed use of the building and what's appropriate for the district. And then it would be a congregate living or residential use on the upper floor, half of the second floor and all of the third floor.
Lynn, can you show me the entrance on there?
Okay, you won't see it on here because it's on this side of this wall right here. So let me go back.
Oh, so we're,
So that's looking at this facade across like
Right,
this.
right.
And the entrance is right there.
okay.
So you'll see it a little bit. Let me get to that elevation. You can see it here.
Okay.
This is that open area and then the
It's
door would
recessed.
be
Okay.
on the side.
So there's kind of like a
A
kind of a fake facade or a,
No, it's
Or something?
an open, and I'll let the architect explain the design a little bit, but it's an open porch area.
I got you. Oh, okay.
So this is an open area with the wall of the structure here.
Okay.
But there's a column
There's
here,
a column, yeah, okay.
so that creates a open little porch area.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this is the main facade. One of the design review guidelines talks about roof forms. This does have a flat roof form. The guidelines propose to have something that's more residential in nature. Staff did mention, though, that the apartment complex directly to the north of this structure does have a flat roof, so that is a consideration. So walking around the structure, the other thing, the guidelines talk about a water table. Typically, water tables are not the full height of a first story. They would come to around this level and then have a different material. So the water table in the design guidelines is not meant to be the entire foundation or the entire first floor of a structure. And this is showing that north elevation. And then the south elevation or 14th Street, and you'll see that it does have the commercial storefront windows. And then it has the residential windows above. And this is showing the rear of the structure. Overall, the proposed project meets many of the guidelines for a mixed-use building in this district of the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District, but there are a few things that staff thinks fine-tuning where the Architectural Review Committee could help the project better meet all of the guidelines, and so staff is recommending that you refer the project to the Architectural Review Committee for the applicant to work with the ARC on trying to better meet the intent of the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, hello. I'm Jeff with Paul Werner Architects.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can't understand you.
Did you have any presentation or words you wanted to say?
We agree. We think a revision and a meeting with the ARC will be able to meet all, if not most of the guidelines. And if we could talk about getting that scheduled, we would love to get Lynn a revision and be able to be on the July agenda, if we think that's possible at all.
Okay, we have, I have Jay's schedule.
Okay. Well, y'all will need to go through the process and have public comment and then discussion.
Yes, of course.
Before we get.
But I wanted to let you know, in
Okay.
case you hadn't seen it, because it just came in.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
All right. Okay.
I have questions about the commercial uses. Is that property zoned for commercial?
Yes, it's zoned mixed use, so commercial on the ground floor.
I'm just, having read about situations at Bullwinkle's, well, several things. I can't imagine people wanting to live across the street from the noise. And then also just making that corner more of a commercial district than it already is. I just would, but we didn't receive any feedback from the Oread neighborhood?
No.
Okay.
And just as a reminder, if you will, so this property is basically not even a block. It's the other side of the block from the Ohio corner that they just tore that down and are rebuilding, right? 1346 Ohio. That's the one that we approved that they're tearing down and they're building, and it's going to be retail and apartments or whatever above that. So these two, that property and then this vacant lot is separated by a house in the middle.
Right.
So they kind of bookend 14th Street.
Yeah,
So-
I'm just seeing this becoming more and more commercial and then expanding, into the neighborhoods, into the residential areas, and that concerns me.
Well,
And-
it is a more commercial corridor up to campus, you realize. I mean, it has,
And Jeffrey,
There is also a cap on commercial square footage in the district, so I think that's kind of been accounted for, but
Jeffrey, according to the plans, the idea is that the commercial would just be a restaurant on that
correct.
main level and
Yep.
then some sort of space on half the second level? Or is
Yes. correct.
okay, well,
Are we ready for?
I think we need to take public comment, which
Oh,
I
yes.
neglected to do in our
Okay.
last item. Is there any public comment?
Patrick, you're it. Anything?
I don't see anyone online.
Okay, now we're ready.
Are we ready for a motion?
We are ready for a motion.
Commissioner Johnson, I would move to refer the project to the Architectural Review Committee to allow for the committee to work with the applicant on design options that may help the project better meet the Oread neighborhood design guidelines.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion carries. So now do we look at dates?
Yes.
We are both mostly free on July the 5th.
Okay, that works for us.
We have other dates if that doesn't work for you.
Do you have any earlier, or is that the earliest?
That's the
That's the earliest.
earliest because of a vacation. It is a holiday week, as
Yeah.
was pointed out.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good.
Okay, we'll do it, July 5th.
Is that a set time, or do we discuss that amongst ourselves?
Noon, sure. Does noon
Yep.
work?
We'll
Yep,
set it
sounds
for
good.
July 5th at noon. That will be ARC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the fourth item, HRC 241016.
This is a demolition and new construction request for 1111 New Jersey Street. The property is in the same block that we looked at earlier. It's located in the context area of the Henry Waters House, located at 1124 New Jersey Street. This is the project location here outlined in the orange color, and the Waters House is here in the center of the 250-foot context area. This is the primary and the north elevation of the structure. Looking at the rest along that north elevation. The rear of the structure. Looking back along the south elevation of the structure. These are some interior photographs to show you it is a shotgun plan. This in the center is the front door, and the photograph is being taken from the bedroom. And you'll notice there are no moldings at the top where the wall meets the ceiling, but it does have your basic moldings that are still in existence. The wood floor is still in existence. This is standing in the kitchen looking back through the back porch, which has been converted to a laundry area, and the rear door is here, and you can notice some of the condition. What you can't, let me go back and see if you can see it. You can't really see it. There is there's a picture, I believe, in your packet showing how much mold is in the structure. There's quite a bit of mold in the structure. This is a photograph showing the foundation. If you can notice, at some point the foundation's been rehabilitated and repaired with a concrete block wall put on top of it. There's actually a little ledge right here, and then the framing of the house set on top of that concrete block. This is the rendering of the proposed new construction. Looking at the site plan here, here would be the front door. This would be New Jersey Street on your right here. It would have an attached garage with building over it, and that's discussed in your staff report. That's not typical in the context area, but the way the structure is designed, the garage is incorporated into the house, and they managed to still have that 20-foot rear yard setback, so there's still an open space in the rear yard along the alley. This is the elevation that was submitted. It's a mirror of the rendering that was submitted, so we would need to clarify with the applicant which of these drawings would be the one that they are proposing, whether or not the door would be on the north or the south, but the elevation is the same other than that. This is the rear elevation showing that garage door. And then the side elevation. And then the other side. And this was another rendering that was supplied by the applicant showing that front elevation and then that north side of the structure. This one was very challenging for staff. It's a very unique structure in the context area and in East Lawrence. It's a shotgun vernacular style house. The construction date is not typical for what we would consider was the time frame when shotgun houses were typically built in East Lawrence. It's a little bit later than that, in the 20s. We could find no historic significance associated with the property or with the structure. Staff is of the opinion that it could be rehabilitated, but that it may not be contributing to the context of the area because of historic significance and because it is different from the average structures in the context area. The replacement plan meets most of the design criteria. The concerns for staff were the roof form. It doesn't have a gabled roof. It has the shed roof, which we've talked about before. And being built on a platform, this one actually is raised a little bit on the front, even though the back would be flat for access to the rear-facing garage. So staff is recommending that the commission find that the proposed project meets the standards in Chapter 22 and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
So the violations were recent on this, correct? I mean, in terms of, so people have not been living here for a while?
I'm not sure how long it's been vacant, but Patrick, do you know how long it's been vacant? Just recently. Okay, just recently. So Patrick, can the...
Because I'm trying to imagine someone horribly living in all that mold, you know, for however long they did that. That is certainly not safe, and again, it goes back to how does the city know when there's, you know, a situation like that that truly affects people's health, and the city doesn't know about it and can't get into the house doesn't get into the house to investigate, you know, to check it, and then there's a violation that happens sort of after the fact, you know what I mean? It just, the timing confounds me.
If we go back to the beginning of your presentation, you said that it's in the context area of the Waters House. Is that locally listed?
Yes.
And it's not in another historic district or?
No, it's just the context area of the Waters House.
It's pretty close to some NAACP founders from 1921. Just FYI.
Okay, is the applicant present?
Good evening. Patrick Watkins again on behalf of the builder and the owner. Appreciate the time that Lynn has put into this and the support she's provided. And she did walk through the house with us. It's an unusually small house. I mean, I think that's the novelty of it, and I think we can appreciate that this is 414 square feet. And as Lynn noted, it's shotgun style, so you have a 10 by 10 room in the front that opens up to another 10 by 10 room. That's probably a bedroom that you have to go through if you want to get to the kitchen bathroom behind that. It's so small that, is this your report, Lynn? It's probably not in full.
What are you looking for?
This hilarious picture that I just want to share from the beginning, I think it's, oh, it didn't get put in.
Okay, sorry.
Page 14, I think. Page 8 of the staff report. It's so small that it can hide behind a tree.
Yes.
It's amazing. And I don't think we even meant to do that. But it's a catalpa tree right in front.
Catalpa, that's what that was.
Yeah, it's tall.
Oh, but it got cut down, right?
It did not.
It did not.
It is still
Oh,
there.
there's hope. Okay, but it's not going to happen, right?
Well, the builder has an interest in saving it. You can actually see in the renderings that they've got it.
I mean, it's in a horrible place. It's smack in front of the house.
Yes, and that's probably the overriding story behind this house, is that it has not received much attention at all. It had a longstanding tenant maybe over the last 8 years or something, and there's a little bit of backstory about the owner and the builder requesting more information and starting the process of building here, but and they called the planning office and they got the immediate feedback that there is no environs review because the interactive map had not been updated because Waters House just only recently listed. And so we kind of stopped them midstream when they filed the building permit and the demolition permit. And I think Lynn has recognized this. It's not really anybody's fault. It's just an unfortunate circumstance where Waters House had been approved, interactive map had not been updated, and the planning staff had given them the feedback that, yeah, you're okay to go ahead and start your plans, file the building permit. That's sort of beside the point today. But the real novelty is that this is a 414 square foot house. And it's in a layout that just doesn't lend itself to any sort of accommodating living situation. I mean, if you're looking at tiny homes that are being built today, they're built in an L shape, in part because you don't want to have to traverse through a bedroom to get to the kitchen. But those two factors, notwithstanding the mold, really prevent this house from having a feasible opportunity to be saved. The basement has received some work over time, and it's not in terrible condition right now, but it would need attention, and it would have to have some sort of reasonable shoring up to remain stable. But beyond all that, it's still 414 square feet, and there's just not anything that you can do with a footprint that size. You could try and fix it up, but is there a market for anybody to live there? Will somebody live in a shotgun style home?
There might be, they just might not pay
Yes.
rent.
Well, they certainly, there would be a reduction in rent, and
I think-
you know,
I'm sorry.
to bring it up to code, you would have to do the full range of electrical, HVAC, and it needs more money than could possibly ever be feasibly injected with a possible return. Notwithstanding all of that, we have the discussion of whether this contributes to the context area of the Waters House, which is right across the street. It is an amazing old, I think it's Italianate brick structure. It's a remarkable building. It's closer to the house that we heard about in the first agenda item. But when you look out the Waters home, you can't see the front porch of this house, in part because there's a tree there. And in the summer, the tree is blossoming, and you really can't see it. But it's far enough away that I think I can comfortably say that this does not contribute to the context area, in part because you can't see it, but in part because it's so small. The builder has submitted plans that are not typical of his type of house. He's built in East Lawrence at a number of locations, and this is a more modest sized footprint. This is 1,500 square feet. It's designed to be accommodating for a family. It's hopefully a house that will be purchased by folks that will send their kids to New York Elementary, which is just a little over a block away. And so some of the design on this project has been in light of trying to keep the purchase price reasonable and accommodating for a family. Certainly, the back garage access is one of those things. A freestanding garage would cost more. And it would also, having it attached to the house still preserves that back setback that's desirable here. There's been some thought that has gone into the design. I don't think the builder has concerns that they cannot reach an agreement with Lynn about how to restructure the window. I personally don't think that there's any concern that we can't inform Lynn on which side the front door is on the house. I think it's probably more likely to be on the north so that they can avoid the tree. But it is a tastefully sized house with regard to the rest of the structure sizes and the cadence within the neighborhood. If there are any questions about it, I'd be happy to respond. I can get the applicant on the phone too if we need real hard feedback on this, but I'm familiar with what his intentions are.
Are you keeping the tree?
I think they'd like to. I mean, if you go through this.
It is magnificent.
I'm just sort of impressed by that.
It's an incredibly magnificent tree, and of course, it's the right tree for the wrong place, or it's the wrong tree for the right place is what we say as master gardeners. So I appreciate the fact that the builder would like to save it. If that's at all possible. When the tree is so friggin' close to that house that there's going to be incredible root damage done, and it may not survive it.
Right.
But what the hey? I would like to mention, just in terms of a little bit of history, that before that lot was had a house built on it, it was used as what was called a pingree patch, which was basically a community garden to teach children how to garden. And it was a big deal in 1906, and this property was used for that purpose as a garden patch. So, of course, as a master gardener, I keep thinking, greenery, right, of making some space for something green, whether it's, a vegetable garden or not. But I just think that's rather neat that it was a community garden before the house got built. You talk about 1,400 square feet currently being too small.
400.
400.
400.
414 square feet.
Got it. Never mind.
Yeah, just to conclude my thoughts, it is designed to look out to the south and have a bit of a side yard and a backyard. But yeah, to answer your question, I think some green space has been contemplated here.
It appears that you've taken, or the applicant has taken, quite a few photos of the existing property, and I'm wondering, because it is so unique, have they done any other documentation of it, like measured drawings or?
As-built drawings or?
Yeah,
No.
okay.
We have videos of it.
Videos, okay. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I kind of like the idea of keeping this long rectangle. It sort of feels like a mobile home in some cases, in some sense, but it'll be a little wider and longer.
It's still the shotgun approach.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
I don't think we have anyone online.
Good tall, but that's what it is. Of course it is. Jeez.
Well, I was, I don't like to see buildings torn down. It's a cute little house. But I was happy to see the modern architecture proposed, actually. So I felt like that was nice. A nice submittal that meets all the technical requirements and is an example of how you don't have to match everything that you're next door to. You can do a different style and still meet the guidelines.
And I'm the opposite, but,
Okay.
Well, and-
Because when I look at it, I immediately think of Rock Hill House,
Lovely.
which I love, okay? I'm just saying, you know, we're pushing in these directions, so.
We are, yes.
And again, being so close to the Waters House, it's
Well, and I have two questions for Lynn. So we have so few shotgun houses. Will this set a precedent for demolition of them based on size? Because that's part of the argument here, is it's so small you couldn't rehabilitate it for how much it could rent for.
The way Chapter 22 is written, that you don't set precedent, with each individual project's looked on its
Okay.
own merit, so,
Okay.
but it would be something that someone could point to in the future and say, as a reason, and bring this discussion to light.
I do want to clarify something about the shotgun. Again, the sentence is written, only 17 of these types of structures were documented in the Living in East Lawrence survey. So the point is, we don't really know the exact number of shotgun houses that currently exist in the East Lawrence neighborhood.
That's how many Dr. Domer and his group
Right.
counted when they looked at the entire neighborhood with those boundaries that are associated with that context study. So they did only count 17
Okay,
in the East Lawrence, in those boundaries that are
right.
identified as that neighborhood.
But I guess I also want to make the case for keeping small houses, and I'm realizing small is not the correct word anymore. We're supposed to call them tiny now, because everybody lives in such massive homes that are newly built, right, for massive families, so each child has their own individual bedroom, et cetera, plus the family room, plus the offices for each spouse, plus et cetera. So I just want to speak in favor of small, tiny houses. There are handfuls of us in this city, myself, who are single and love living in tiny houses that you don't have to clean all the time, okay? That there's not a whole lot of space to clean, and you don't have storage space in a basement or in an attic. So it really keeps everything economical and frugal and far more affordable, because there is less space. And there are people in this community who could, either single people or a couple who aren't planning children, who might jump at a chance to live in a tiny house. So I just want to make that point, that we shouldn't dismiss, and use upper middle class standards for the size of houses, especially in this neighborhood.
Thank you.
Well, and my second question was, particularly in the East Lawrence neighborhood, we are getting an awful lot of modern architecture. When does that become the character of the neighborhood and not the historic homes?
And I think that's something that the commission has to discuss, but I think historic districts, or the areas where you preserve more stringently those more historic forms, and then in the context areas, according to Chapter 22, you can look at more contemporary design, and those areas through the planning process are allowed to evolve more with more modern architecture, as long as it's compatible with what the historic patterns are, like that elevated platform.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we're discussed out. I would like to make a motion to find that the proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project.
I'll second it.
Sorry.
Thank
I
you.
wake up over here.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed?
I'll oppose.
Motion carries 3-1. Thank you. Okay, the fifth item has been withdrawn. Are there any miscellaneous items?
Staff has no miscellaneous items other than you all did receive a letter from the mayor and would encourage you to go in and reapply for the Historic Resources Commission.
And the reason for that is?
The city commission is realigning all the boards and commissions for the city in compliance with the strategic plan. And this is one of those follow-up items to help those boards be more consistent and have the same training and the same timeframes.
But this commission was not affected by
The
realignment.
commission was not realigned, it was not disbanded or combined with another board. It will stay a standalone commission, yes.
But they're
But they're
doing a
changing our
reset on
timeline.
everybody's terms.
They're changing our timeline to August instead of March.
What does that mean?
Well, all the commissioners' terms will expire at the end of August. So August will be the last meeting, and the mayor and the city commission will be reappointing a new Historic Resources Commission. So we're encouraging you all to apply for that.
So we're free. Excellent. Okay. Thank you for that update.
And I just wanted to put on the record that I asked Lynn, it was about a year ago, in July, last July, that I had requested that this commission work on new surveys for the rest of East Lawrence so that we work harder at protecting and preserving and taking care of the homes that are in the other areas that are not in context areas currently.
And we talked about that in our planning session. Did we not?
Right, but I'd like to get it scheduled. I'd like us to discuss it to get down to it sooner than later.
Do we have follow-up working sessions? Is that the plan, or sessions for those items that we targeted?
We have not scheduled those yet. I think it was the commission's response to do those at meetings instead of a separate planning meeting, but we can schedule a different planning meeting if you want to, or we can just add those to your agenda.
Okay.
I'd be in favor of a different planning meeting. I don't know how other people feel about it.
If the agenda is light, I don't mind adding it to this meeting.
Do our terms, when do our terms end?
August 30th.
Okay, so we go through August 30th. All right.
So we can, I don't think we would be ready to do anything at your July meeting, but we can tentatively schedule a work session for the August meeting to start looking at some of that information.
That sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you talk to him and get him to send me an email with final drawings left where if everything matched?